Exciting weekend. Not only do we have sports, but we also have the Jozi Book Fair. Now, could you kindly just tell us what inspired you to start the book fair?
You know, Kanye College has been going on for almost 30 years, and 5 years ago we started the Jozi Book Fair. We work on social justice, and what we've realized is you can't do social justice work in a country where 9 million people can't read and write. 7 million are young people who can't read and write, between 15 and 23. So we started the book fair as a fair to celebrate languages, to ensure and deepen a culture of reading and writing, to develop citizenship, to ensure tolerance, because this ensures that our quality of life is increased all around. You know, it doesn't matter what you read, reading sport, reading about music, food, gardening, academic, religious, you know, there's so many different things, children's stories. And I mean, we have 11 official languages, and these languages must be intellectual languages.
Absolutely.
They're not just a spoken word, you know. They must be languages where young people are writing, developing, where we are archiving our folk tales, because this is our memory, this is our culture, this is our diversity, and it's our strength, you know, not just in South Africa, but Southern Africa and Africa. So we have a lot of exchange programs. We're encouraging a lot of languages as well, in indigenous languages, because we think this is the way to go. It's not English plus, it's all these languages, because English is very dominant, but it is not the language that captures the culture, the lived experience, you know. And if we don't encourage people to write, we don't encourage children to write, what is going to happen to the literature and to our languages?
Very good point there. I mean, just going back to the fair, who are some of the international authors that will be present at the Jozi Book Fair?
Well, the guest of the book fair is Walter Begoya. He is an absolute, you know, encyclopedia. He's a publisher of note for the last 40 years. He writes children's books. And he was also an activist in the liberation struggle for South Africa, because he was active in the Julius Nyerere government. Then we have Pili Dumir, who also writes for children. We've got writers from Sweden, from Finland. We have a Finnish book, a beautiful Finnish book that we've translated from Finnish into English, and it's being translated into 4 African languages, into the 4 major groups. And it's a story about children's rights, about learning to say no. And for us, it's really, you know, it's a fun book, but at the same time, in a very subtle way, it says to children, you have a right to say no. And in a country where our children are abused, where, you know what I mean, they're not respected, the violence, etc. We think that it is through these kinds of little, you know, tales. It's a fairy tale, but it's a tale that a child goes away to say, you can say no. It doesn't matter who you look like, what you look like, you've got rights, say no. You have value.
I think there's a place for that book, especially with the recent child killings that we've witnessed in Diepsloot. You know, I think there's a definite place for children to be educated and empowered about their right to say no. And just going back to the book fair again, I mean, I understand that this year's theme is reading to the word and the world, the role of libraries. We know that some schools are not privileged enough to have libraries. So are they going to be left out in this Jozi Book Fair?
Well, the whole point is to highlight the importance of libraries, because our parents are inheritors of apartheid. So they haven't, you know, the value of books, of reading. We're having to deal with that. How do we get books to our children? Libraries. 10% of schools have books. Every school must have a library. Every community must have a library. Libraries must be thriving places of culture, of storytelling, you know, and they must be open. I was in Sweden recently, because we also have a partnership with the Gothenburg Book Fair, because they've been running their fair for 28 years. So we're learning a lot of things about logistics, how to run a fair, and, you know, why must we reinvent the wheel when we can learn from them? And they are very kindly showing us and teaching us a lot about running book fairs. But what was interesting about is just how many librarians come, how many, you know, every school has a library, you know. And the best way, you know, to actually get, so we're trying to focus on libraries, focus on schools, getting them involved in the process, highlighting the importance. But the point I wanted to make to you about Sweden, it was Sunday, Saturday, 6 o'clock at night, it is full. The library is full.
Wow.
And the people, and I mean, we thought this was an art place, a cultural place. They said, no, this is just a public library. I mean, and this was like a thriving place. And I mean, our kids would thrive. The talent in this country, they would thrive. They would
thrive on books. Incredible. Director of the Jozi Book Fair, Maria Vandriel, thank you so much for being on AIM News and just educating us
more on
books. Thank you so much.